Welcome back, gang. It's Deltia from DeltiasGaming.com. Yes, I'm bald, so make fun of me in the comments, please. This video is going to be about basic stamina DPS. Regardless of the class that you are on, I'm going to explain how to set up your bars, how to do rotations, because I've gotten tons and tons of emails about this. So this is going to be very basic information. If you're the DPS king of the universe and you know it all, this isn't the video for you. If you want general information on what to do in Homestead on PvE DPS, watch this. Okay, so I'm on my Stamsorc, and right now I suck at Stamsorc DPS, so that's why I haven't came out with the video yet, because ultimately I need to improve drastically, so Gil might have to pimp my build. Basics to stamina DPS are two options. One with VMA daggers. This gives you, basically you have to do flurry and then you do damage over time effects, and it really pumps this up. To give you an example, we did this on Rend on stream, and you're looking at almost 30% more damage with one ability. So, a lot of people don't have access to this, so I'm going to kind of show you the beginner way to do this. Best DPS in the game, stamina-wise, you've seen it a million times, it's almost the same on every single build, it's dual wield and bow. Two-hander doesn't have the dot, doesn't have the staying power that dual wield has, nor does it have the availability of Maelstrom daggers. So, yes, you can use two-hander DPS, it's just not going to be effective. Same thing with bow. Bow passives and active skills are just not as powerful to make it the primary damage source. So almost every competitive PvE DPS, when I'm talking PvE, I'm saying dungeons, trials, uses dual wield and bow. So you have basic stuff here when you're setting up your bar. Number one, you need a primary spammable single target ability, and so we're going to put Flurry on our bar. Flurry, it's just a channeled ability, and there's two really powerful morphs, not just one anymore, two of them. So Bloodthirst gives you basically a ton of health, healing. And so this is really good for, let's say, Stamina Dragonite, Stamina Sorc, or anyone that uses this as a primary attack. On Stamina Templar, you might be using Biting Jabs. Stamina Nightblade, you might be using Surprise Attack. So sometimes you're not going to use these skills. So if you're doing Veteran Maelstrom Arena, I would suggest using this as your primary spammable single target attack. If you're doing PvE, which is groups, dungeons, trials, and you have a dedicated healer, this is your best bet because it does the most damage. That's our first skill. So that's our single target spammable ability. Now, second one, no brainer, Whirlwind. There's really one morph choice that's obvious, Steel Tornado. It's AoE, huge range, it hits like a truck, and hits harder the lower the health is, so it acts as an execute, actually. We got our single target spammable, we got our AoE spammable. When I say AoE, meaning more than one mob, that's what you're going to click. Last ability up for dots is Twin Slash. Now, another option here that you have, Blood Craze. Yes, it's another morph that heals you. So beginning players that are doing Veteran Maelstrom Arena or Dungeons and Trials and you're struggling, this is the morph that you're going to want to take, because with Bloodthirst and this, you're going to have a lot of healing, and so it's going to be a lot easier, though you're sacrificing damage for healing. Remember, you can't have it all. You have to sacrifice something for something else. So we're going to take Blood Craze, and I'm going to do VMA on this guy. You have a really good flex spot that not a lot of people use. So Deadly Cloak here. It is the morph of Blade Cloak, and it does damage 15 seconds, but really it has AoE damage reduction. So both PvE and PvE, this is really spectacular. A thing that good players do are they're constantly situationally changing their skills. They don't go into a dungeon or a trial and have the exact same skill loadout the entire way through. They don't. So what I mean is, if you're going to be clearing trash, just multiple tons and tons of mobs, and you're not going to do a boss fight, what you do is you take off Blood Craze, you put this on. More AoE damage and more AoE damage reduction. You get to a boss, you stop 1 second, you put that back on. Very simple. The no-brainer ultimate is Lacerate, dual wield, and really the no-brainer choice here is Rend. So Rend is a powerful dot, 16 seconds, and if you use Maelstrom daggers, I mean, the amount of damage this does over its duration and healing is absolutely incredible. So you see, you can actually have a lot of healing as a stamina DPS, and this is just the basic setup. Another thing that you can do to throw in something a little bit more damage, but it's going to require you to maintain dots even more, Trap Beast, morph into Rearming Trap. So this ability really got nerfed, but it's still worth running because that extra crit damage will add up big time. So you're either going to run the Thief or the Shadow Mundus Stone typically, or the Thief and the Shadow if you're wearing Twiceborn Star, and this is still really good. It hits pretty hard individually, and it buffs your crit damage. So you're going to see it lasts about 14 seconds, and it's a worthwhile skill running. And then you have a flex spot here. So basically your class is going to determine what you put here. So on a Stam Sorc, Bound Armor morphed into Bound Armor Mints. Now this got moved in the skill line, so console folks, you're going to have to re-level this and freak out like I did. Stamina Templar, what you're going to run? Power of a Light probably. Stam Nightblade, what you're going to run here? Killer's Blade. Stam Dragonite, what you're going to run here is probably Claw, Venomous Claw. So you see what I'm going with this? Pretty much the exact same setup on every build front bar. Back bar, once again, very, very similar in how you set this up. This is Poison Injection. Really, it's the one morph you're going to want. So I put this in my 2 key. It's a damage over time effect, and it can be buffed from VMA daggers. So it's something that you're cast flurry. Go back to your back bar. If you don't have that, don't worry about it. It's worthwhile maintaining this dot at 100%. So on your primary target, it's worth maintaining. Lots of mobs around, you're not going to sit there and dink, 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 dink everyone. Now, Volley right here, 2 really good morphs as well, and regardless if you have the Maelstrom Bow or not, it's worth running. So Arrow Barrage, this is more of the AoE focus skill, and then Endless Hail is more of the single target skill, so it lasts longer. So I usually take Endless Hail just because it's easier for me to remember and rotate the buffs. Since this one is 10 seconds, this one is basically 12 since it takes 2 seconds to actually start ticking. And now we have a couple flavor things depending on our class. So Stam Sorc, you're going to double bar Bound Armaments to get that extra stamina. Nightblades, you're probably going to have Merciless Resolve on there. Templar, maybe Repentance. Dragonite, you might have another dot. Like, and every class needs a self-heal. So the no-brainer one to do is Vigor, Resolving Vigor here. So most classes are going to run this. And yes, you have to PvP to get it. I can't change that, but it's worth getting. Now, some classes specifically can have other types of healing. So Stam Sorc, Crit Surge, it's more powerful than Vigor, and it lasts longer, so it's not going to have to, you're not going to have to take your time off of DPS to cast this. And then another DPS or flex spot. So my Templar, I usually run Adric Spear here, and my Nightblade, I usually run Siphoning Attacks. So with my Sorc here, I'm going to run Hurricane. And then Dragonite, usually I run another dot or Molten Weapons or something like that. Then a back bar ultimate. So what you can do, the Bow ultimate is actually really fantastic. It's not so good for AoE. So typically you want to have an AoE ultimate in your back bar. Believe it or not, even Stam builds can benefit from Shooting Star. So you put Shooting Star back here and make sure you have Everlasting Magic, Might of the Guild. So that's going to give you Empower, and that's going to make it last longer, more damage. Another ability that you can use if you're doing Daedra, Dawnbreaker of Smiting here, I wouldn't take Flawless Dawnbreaker. You get pumped up your weapon damage, but you're not on your back bar a whole lot. Really, it's just apply dots. So Dawnbreaker of Smiting for VMA if you need the stun. And the trick you can do is hit the ultimate and then bar swap immediately. So I'm going to continue to have Shooting Star back here. I like the stun, I like the AoE. And this is your basic bar setup regardless of any class that you're playing. So now let's go ahead and talk about how to actually use this in a rotation. I'll show you the simple way first. And the simple way is basically without Maelstrom Daggers. Because once you have Maelstrom Daggers or Axe or whatever it is, essentially when you're about to apply your dot, you hit Flurry first to proc that enchant, and then you apply your dot. So it's a little more complicated. So you can start out the fight a bunch of different ways, and I don't have my optimal PvE set up on, so this is just, I'm not going to break the world DPS record by any means. And what I like to do is usually fire my Meteor and Ultimate off. I'm trying to go for big numbers, and I do Endless Hail first. The reason why, it takes 2 seconds before it starts doing damage. So with that, you can use your Meteor, Endless Hail, Poison Injection, and a heavy attack and all land at once. And it can spike your DPS. So you would do something like this. See? So 15k, 4k, and 2k all at once. And you can see that DPS shot up big time. And so that's how you can get a good start and then immediately bar swap. So depending on your class, you're going to have some buffs prior. So Crit Surge on my Stam Sorc, Hurricane. Let's say I just did that. While I'm closing the gap, what I do is Charge up a heavy attack. Remember, every action you should be light attacking or heavy attacking in between those actions. Proc your weapon enchant, proc ultimate, and then heavy attack fully if you need resources back. Then usually I put my trap down. So that's going to get damage starting to flow in. Crits are going to start hitting a lot harder. Then I'm going to use my Blood Craze or whatever morph I have. Once those dots are applied, you got Trap Beast, Blood Craze, Injection, Endless Hail. And then you have some flavor depending on your class, like Hurricane or Venomous Claw on a Dragon Knight, and so on. Power of Light as a Templar. Once those things are done, then it's single target mode. So what you're doing is light attacking, rapid strikes, light attacking, rapid strikes. Essentially, it should be about 3 rapid strikes, maybe 4, depending on your class and what you need to do next. And essentially, it's going back to your back bar and casting those buffs again. So usually I go with the longest to the shortest duration. So Endless Hail, Injection, bar swap back, and then maybe a Rending Slash here. And then I'm going to do Blood Craze, Trap Beast, and that's it. So let me show you kind of what it looks like in the groove. And by no way am I a PvE DPS master, so some people might have better operations than this, but this is just basic stuff. So I'm going to buff. I'll take my weapon power potion with my crit. And then I'm going to put my trap down, my dot. I'm going to use my ultimate here. And then I'm looking on the right side of my screen. 1 second left on injection, so I need to go back to my back bar. Apply that, Endless Hail, and bar swap. And you see what I did? I didn't cast Hurricane. So you need to make sure all those dots are up, because that will increase your DPS. So Injection, Hail, Hurricane, bar swap. Guess what's down? Trap Beast. Blood Craze. And I'm looking the right side. Okay, see? Injection, Endless Hail. Hurricane still has 4 seconds, so I'm not going to overcast it. I'm not going to reapply it. Hurricane's down, bar swap, injection, da, da, da. So you start to get in a groove here, and the number one thing to do is, at first you can see, I'm missing cast, I'm not casting it as efficiently as some other players, and that's okay. When in doubt, use Rapid Strikes, or Bloodthirst, whatever morph you have, instead of just standing there. Time on target is very important. Always be doing something. Something is better than nothing. Remember that. So Rapid Strikes, if you need to think a second to, do I do an injection or what about, just hit a Rapid Strikes. Look at your buffs. Look at the character if you're on console and you don't have the buffs. And go, okay, well, my arms aren't glowing red, so I need another rearming trap. Okay, the guy's not bleeding, so I need to do Bloodthirst. Blood Craze, excuse me. And the guy doesn't have poison on, so I need to do that Endless Hail, so on and so forth. So that's kind of what you're doing, is remember, time on target is essential. You're not always going to get these buffs and debuffs and all these rotations down perfectly, but as long as you're doing rapid strikes while you're thinking, or whatever your spammable is, like biting jabs, surprise attack, something like that, you're going to have good damage. And then once the timing comes, once you start practicing it, so you're going to know, okay, now I know I need to bar swap, poison injection, Endless Hail, Hurricane, bar swap back, boom, Bloodthirst, Trap Beast, Blood Craze. See what I'm saying? You're starting to get in a rhythm. What I'm going to warn you on is a couple different things. Target Dummy is not real PvE application. Very, very, very rarely can you just sit there and apply all these buffs and debuffs and nothing happens. You're going to have to stop and heal. You're going to have to stop to get out of the red. You're going to have to stop to res somebody. You're going to have to stop to do mechanics. So in a perfect world, this works. In a realistic world, time on target. So what this means is, essentially, if I'm beating on this skeleton here and a huge red circle comes down, well, you need to get out of it, right? This is a good time to do one of two things. To use a range attack, just like poison injection, a couple times, because you see it still hits for 4K on a non-crit, and then also I have a light attack in there too, so you're still generating damage. Or you can reapply your buffs. So let's say crit surge is down, I'm going to reapply that. Hurricane, then I'm going to go an injection and hail, and then the red stuff's back down, and go back through my rotation. Kind of just a basic rotation single target. So now what do you do in AoE, where there's tons and tons of mobs? Essentially, it's the same thing, but you're going to cut out one of two things. So typically I cut out poison injection. I will start this if there's a priority add. like something that does a heavy attack and can one-shot or something like that, like Runes of Mazatoon. There's some dudes in there that do that, so I just snipe them, boom, real quick with a poison injection. You're going to pre-buff, so you're going to do Crit Surge, Hurricane, or whatever class you're on, Endless Hail, usually a Meteor or an AoE specific ultimate. And then I go to my front bar, and if it's going to be pure AoE, I'm going to slot Deadly Cloak before the engagement. I'm going to maintain that for 15 seconds. Once that happens, I actually get in here and I still apply Trap Beast. So the reason I still apply Trap Beast is it's increasing all my crits, meaning it's increasing all my Steel Tornadoes. So when you get in here, really you're just spinning to winning. And you're going to spin to win until the mobs start getting down, and then you're going to need to reapply Endless Hail and then a flavor. So whatever, Hurricane or Merciless Resolve or Power of Light, something on your class specifically. So it's Endless Hail, Deadly Cloak if that's up, Rearming Trap, spin to win. But you still need to maintain those buffs and be disciplined. And that's kind of, we get mindless Steel Tornado mode. But your Steel Tornadoes will hit a lot harder. You'll be a lot safer and won't die if you maintain those buffs before you get into the action. So this is just a basic Stamsorc loadout. I'm going to work on some VMA, PvE, DPS, because my timing is definitely off since I have not played this class. And I need a lot of work personally. So I need to go to work. I'm not perfect. I need to improve. And I'm just kind of, remember that teaching is learning twice. So as I'm trying to teach y'all, I'm learning too. And I'm not perfect at all. So hopefully you got something out of this and can apply it to any stamina DPS. Let me know if you like this type of video, and I'll do it for Magic as well, because believe it or not, it's very, very similar on Magic DPS as well. You still only have 2-3 flavor positions on both of your bars. Most of the ultimates are the same, execute, so on. So we can do the exact same thing. We can even do it with tanking and healing and so forth. So thank you so much for watching. I hope this guys give you guys some direction for the Homestead patch while I'm getting a chance to update the website and my builds.